Thank you so much for joining us. We have Seven here with us. Hello, Seven. Thanks for coming on.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you today and to let our members chat with you. I have a million questions. It's going to be so fun. First of all, hello to everybody in chat. Sean, happy birthday. Oh my God. Thank you for spending part of it here with us. Hello. Hi, Jenny. Oh, Jonathan, I'm so glad you could make it. Jonathan has your dice and was helping me when we did a little members only cracking into everything and like explorative. It was
that's
great.
So fun.
Yeah. Hi, Crystal. Oh my God. So many of you are here. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my God. So Seven has a crowdfunding campaign going on right now. So I figured if you don't already know, I know I've posted about it, but just in case you don't already know, your newest edition of your dice are on BackerKit right now.
They're on BackerKit right now. They just started funding on the 1st, and they're going to be going up until the 22nd, I believe.
Amazing. So we have a little bit of time yet, which is great.
Yeah.
And crowdfunding, it's the most stressful thing ever in life. How are you holding up?
I've done the rodeo a few times now.
Yeah.
This is project, I think, 40. Well, it's project 46, but as far as crowdfunding projects go, I think it's like a crowdfunding project like 25 or 26.
No, it is. Really?
Oh yeah, I've been around the block on the process a number of times now.
How are you still sane? Number one.
This is a good question.
I stress the fuck out having 2 in a calendar year.
It's
No.
been a while. There's been time, right? I think my first crowdfunding project was 2016, so it's been over 9 years that we've done like 25 or 26. So about average of about 3 a year. It's definitely picked up as time has gone on. Like last year, I think I have like 5 or 6 things that are kind of active in different stages at the moment.
Yeah, that's valid. I do understand that. I usually have multiple things on the go.
But
I feel like I learned my lesson with having 2 in a calendar year. And I'm like, I'm gonna just slow my roll a little bit, get things settled. I mean, it was harder because it was my first time ever crowdfunding and producing any physical product ever. And I did 2 of those in a year, and I was like, no, we're not gonna do that. And I had to switch manufacturers between the 2 projects, and it was like a whole thing.
No.
But oh my God. Yeah, we did. We had so much fun here. We all hung out and opened up the goodie box and went through everything and kind of like wrapped my head around. And I had the first edition Oracle dice when they first came out. And it was 14 dice then, right?
You are correct. I do have them kind of right here in the earliest prototype of the wooden box. I have a bunch of random 6-sided dice filling out the space because there were only 14 in the original set. And it's so fun to go back and look at them because they are very similar in many ways, but also I designed the symbols on the first edition set and I paid a designer to redesign them for the second edition, so they do look a little nicer.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, the first edition set was very cool, but I feel like when I got the second edition set, I was kind of surprised because I remembered I couldn't tell you. I wish I had the first edition set still to look at them side by side.
Yeah.
Which probably would have made you twitchy, but like, because I know how that is. But also I was like, they seem so much more clear. That's all I knew how to say. It's like I felt like they seemed much more sharp and like maybe easier to see what I was looking at on the symbols. Is that one of the main redesigns you guys did?
Absolutely. Like
just clarity.
The summer die has this fist that is I did my best. Okay, it looks like this. You look at the summer die in the new set and it actually looks like it's a fist. Wow, what do you know?
That's amazing. Okay, that's
turns
awesome.
out when you pay artists who are really good at their things, they do a much better job.
I love working with artists. My favorite part of what I do is being able to take something that I'm imagining in my head and say to somebody else, can you make this a thing? And then they do. And it is when I first started my first tarot deck, when I first started working with my artist, I remember coming home and telling my wife, I was like, this is all I want to do forever and ever. Amen. Like, I want to keep this artist in my pocket full time. Just if I have an idea, can you just please paint it for me, draw it for me? It is the most incredible, magical thing.
It is. And I think that's kind of what addicts me. I am totally a product addict. I will admit this. It's
Me
what
too.
me to working on new projects all the time. I have a Rolodex of artists that I've worked with now ever since the Alleyman's Tarot, where I had like 131 people on that.
Holy cow.
Other artists besides that I've already worked with in the past. There's always something where I'm like, oh, I have a really cool new idea, and I know exactly how I want it to look. Who can do that? It's Shan, or it's Reed, or it's as.
Yeah.
And I go reach out to them like, do you have time? Do you have time?
Yeah.
I need you to make me a thing.
Yeah. Can you please make me stuff?
Please?
That I will say that's you're quite lucky in a lot of ways that with that Alleyman project to have connected with so many talented artists, because that is, I
Oh
think, the
my
biggest
gosh.
challenge for me has been finding somebody whose work kind of represents what I want to do, but also
Mhm.
who wants to take it on. Because, well, I guess I should say at least with a full tarot deck, because with a full tarot or
Oh
a full oracle
gosh.
deck, you're asking
So
somebody to
much
pretty
work.
please paint you 78 things, like 80 things, and like they're like, that's a lot. And a lot of artists will be like, no, that's too much. And I couldn't wrap my brain around, I haven't yet come up with smaller. I've got a few ideas, but I haven't come up with anything like where it's like a little bit less work for the poor artist. So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm asking them to sign up for a little tiny torture time.
I think it really
But
helps when I do small things. Like I just did a couple poetry books where I needed covers for those, and I was like,
nice.
"Reed, I love working with you so much. Would you please?" Or
Yeah.
like whenever I do, along with those poetry books, actually, there was a set of oracle cards that you could get. It was part of the gosh, what was it, Booktopia thing, where if you backed multiple book projects, you get these like little oracle cards, and these were like just oracle cards. Oh, why is that one upside down? And they
Yeah.
were oracle cards of the covers of the books, but also elements that were on the
Oh,
covers. And so I get to like make little card things that is a
oh,
little
that's
helpful, so you don't
fun.
have to do an entire 78 card deck or 100 card deck.
Amazing. I love that. So I want to take it back to the very beginning. First of all, I was drawn to your projects and content because it screamed like the most amazing nerd energy. And I was like, yes, please, to this creator. So I'm assuming, I mean, I'm making assumptions, but please tell us about your nerdy, gamey past. Like, where did you get into all of this stuff?
I have the nerdy gamey past. It's very true.
Yes, I hoped.
I was such a little fantasy kid when I was little. I was always making up my own little worlds. So it was inevitable that I would get into role playing games with friends as a teenager. I think that is Dungeons and Dragons, of course, is the
Hell
gateway
yeah.
drug for so many people to get into
Yeah.
gaming like that. And very quickly, I realized that Dungeons and Dragons didn't necessarily fit my. I love using those extra cards as bookmarks. I love that, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Um, it didn't quite fit my worlds that I was working on. So then I started
Yeah.
as like a young kid. I was like, okay, actually, yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm making my own custom races, my own custom spells, and my own custom monsters because I want it to be about my world, not the one in the book. Uh,
Yeah.
and then as I got older, I was like, I want to realize that in some way. So one of my very first crowdfunding project was actually for a role-playing game book that is over on the shelf, and it's really ugly, but I keep it as my reminder that like I did it. I tried to
Amazing.
make a 300-page role-playing game book on a Kickstarter budget of $1,500, which it doesn't. That's not how money
That
works.
that's not how that math isn't mathing.
It did not.
Um, no.
I spent a lot of my own money to pay artists, and then my own money to also print it to get it out in the world because the $1,500 did not go very far.
Oh my God. Yeah, I imagine not. Wow. That's an endeavor.
Choices
So
were made.
just a reminder, everybody in chat, if you have questions for Seven, any like pretty much we're just anything goes at this point, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
Just throw it
here.
in the chat, maybe put it in all caps. Sorry to hear about my video, y'all. It looks like it might have got snagged by YouTube for who knows what. I don't know. I don't do you make a lot of YouTube content, Seven?
I post a lot of my updates and stuff on YouTube. I've tried to
Yeah.
do some pre-campaign videos about like explaining what the dice are, explaining how dice rolls work. But
Yeah.
I try to avoid a lot of YouTube content making because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
lot
for
of
some
work.
reason, it is a lot of work. I think my own personal deck got snagged for nudity and sexual content. I've got my unicorn deck, so I'm gonna have to take a look at that. They have something going on lately with their thing where it's like snagging. It snagged the RWS for people. It has snagged
Oh
like all
yeah.
the fine art. I don't know what is going on. It is bizarre to me. So yeah, my video's done. I'll have to take care of that after y'all. I'll figure it
It's all
out.
good. You
I'll
know,
feel it.
I just because the key keepers in the new Oracle dice set, there's a key keeper set and there's 7 key
Yeah.
keepers. The art prints and the art actually featuring them, like there are nude genitals, there are nude breasts, and when I was making my YouTube video for it, I was like, how relevant will my video be that they would see a small penis in a piece of art? And I was like, okay,
They
I'll just
totally will.
put like a little blotch on it.
Yeah.
We'll just make that go away. And the breasts,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that no one cares, but it is YouTube, so maybe I should have edited those out.
I don't know. I've heard so many stories literally in the last like month of like just random like fine art stuff. No, you didn't break it, Melissa. Legit. I have a content warning. And the timestamp, look at this. The timestamp is my unicorn deck. So I don't know how.
Unicorn genitalia, take that down.
I'll be feeling that after this live stream.
Yeah.
YouTube needs to calm down.
Calm
YouTube
down,
needs to calm
baby.
down for
We
real.
don't need to
Like,
become Puritans here.
it's all good. So I don't know what's happening there, but anyways, I didn't get a chance. It's just to go back to the gaming thing for a second. I did not get a chance to play D&D or get exposed to D&D or anything when I was young, but I'm super like going down the rabbit hole now. Like,
oh yeah,
48. I'm like, yeah, here I am. My kids played D&D and they used to take Peggy and I through occasional little one shots and stuff like that. But we had no idea like how even the function of role play worked really. It actually took me watching Critical Role to sort of understand that the punchline wasn't not the acting so much, actually, believe it or not, but was realizing that it wasn't so much about acting as it was about making decisions that this particular character would make.
Yeah.
And playing that way. And I don't know why, but like I didn't understand it that way for the longest time. And now that I do, like one of my best friends, Dawn Michelle, she has also got a YouTube channel here. We play Baldur's Gate 3 like over and over and over and over and over again. But we role play different characters, we put them through different scenarios, and we've gotten more and more into role play. Now I have a D&D player's guide. Why? I don't know, because somebody's going to lead me through a campaign one of these days. And Dawn's talking about it. Yeah. So I'm like now going down into the rabbit hole. But for the longest time, it felt super intimidating and like, I don't know, like some other world I could not get into. But I had aspirations. I had D&D nerd aspirations 100%. Amazing. Yeah.
Full support of that. I've made so many role-playing games now, and like 2 of the most recent things that I've done have been games that come in a small box. And if I turn in my chair, is there one easily accessible? No, it's under a pile of poetry. That's okay.
That's a great place for it to be.
That's where it should be. But I made these like box games that are made for one shots. So you're supposed to pull it out. It's easy to quick set up. No one has to have anything prepared. It'll help you make the story as you go. And then it just like brings people into a really rudimentary form of like role-playing game. And I have 2 different versions. And I've found that playing with people who've never played a role-playing game of any kind, that's like when it's the most fun. Because people get excited as they realize that the main thing we're doing here is we're just like making a story together. I can do that. Like I can just add an element. I can just be an agent of chaos. Like it's so delightful to help people like realize what role-playing games are.
100%.
Eye-opening.
Which actually brings me to Alleyman's Tarot. So the Alleyman's Tarot, when it launched on Kickstarter, was a wild freaking ride. You must not have been even remotely prepared for how intense that got.
I feel like I learned so much so quickly, so fast, but not fast enough.
Yeah, fair.
I ended up in so many lessons learned moments that I had to do publicly, which is a little mortifying to look back on.
That's so hard.
I was arguing with people in the comments because they were like saying this or that, or someone's like, "Oh, you probably just ran away with our $1 million." And I was like, I've been putting out regular updates to let you know what's happening. Like, why are you being mean to me? And it was overwhelming. I'm one
I can
person.
only
It became
imagine.
for a lot of time, honestly, a 12-hour workday the entire day of the campaign. I
Oh
had
yeah.
endless comments, messages. I had people DMing me on every social media I have, whether it was business related or my personals. I don't know how they even found some of the things. I was like, what do you want? Help.
Yeah, what is your problem? Yeah, Jonathan says I should send you a photo of my gaming shelf. I used to work at a game store and had a major discount. I would love to see a photo of anybody's gaming shelf. Listen, if I haven't made this perfectly clear on this channel, I am so nosy. I want to see shelves, drawers. Show me what's in your purse. Like, I am one of those people. Like, I don't know why. I get so much satisfaction if somebody makes a what's in my bag video, or like, let me do a tour of my reading table or my room, or
Oh
show
my
me everything.
gosh.
I am one of those.
Well, over there you can see my bookshelf that has all of my things on it. So you've got like Oracle decks and stuff up here. Here's the Alleyman statue. That's New Avernus, which is a board game I did a few years back. You can almost see the corner of the box from the Alleyway Oracles there. These are all poetry right here. That's the podcast CD set for the Alleyman podcast.
Which the fact that you did a podcast. Okay, so I was going to connect this. I had in my head a connection because I thought my impression was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that obviously the Alleyman's Tarot hit the tarot community, of course, as collectors and such, but it seemed to also hit the gaming community. How?
Yeah. One of the big things that kept happening is that people got so excited about the tiny italicized blurb at the start of the Alleyman's Tarot Kickstarter, where it just set up a story moment where you're walking on the street, you look in the alley, there's a scam artist scamming someone out of money. He's like, you come here, and you go over there, and then he's like, for 17 cents, I'll read your cards. And people latched onto that so hard. People were immediately like, I'm making a cosplay of my own Alleyman character. And I was like, you're doing what? And it blew up. People made an Alleyman stat block as a patron for warlocks in D&D. So you could play a warlock and your patron would be the Alleyman, and it gave you bonuses and divination spells and stuff. People hopped on it so fast because it was definitely lightning in a bottle. It's not something that I can recreate. I've tried on every project since. I've put a little italic blurb at the front to give you a story moment. And no one has ever cared as much as the Alleyman. It just was the right character at the right time.
It just hit people a certain way.
Into the idea of this character, which is why I then had to do a podcast, inevitable.
And that, so I have not listened to that, but that turned into, was it a story? Can you tell me what was the podcast about?
The podcast, so originally, actually, the podcast was what I was going to do in the first place. But I realized I didn't know how to do a podcast. It was going to be a fictional drama about this character who's kind of this weird everyman who's in alleyways of every city, who does stories for people through tarot, and then it relates to their life in some important way. But what I realized, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never written a fictional drama podcast show like that before. I've never done audio processing and mixing and mastering, and I was like, I can't do that. So I set it aside, and I said, you know what I could do? The tarot deck. That'd be really fun. So then I made the tarot deck happen, and as the $1 million stretch goal, I said, I'll make a podcast. And then we reached that, so then I had to do it. And the podcast is a 13-episode radio drama kind of deal. It follows Dr. Ala Okoye, who is a religious studies professor in Chicago, who has a side gig podcast called Modern Mythologies. And the show mostly takes place in his fake podcast, where he researches urban mythology, and he is just starting out the topic of this Alleyman thing. So it's about his exploration of the Alleyman topic from an academic perspective, and then his kind of descent into the mythology himself.
Wild. That is the coolest. It's like podcast inception. And I got all the updates about it because I obviously backed the Alleyman back in the very beginning, and I've seen updates come through about your various projects and such. But I'd never checked it out, but now I'm super intrigued.
And it's free. It's just anywhere online. You can do YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcasts. It's everywhere.
What
But we
have you
did do a CD set because I needed something for my bookshelf, and I had never made something that digital. So I was like, how
Yeah.
do I put this on my bookshelf to show I made it? So I did
Oh, well,
a
I understand. It's like
CD
it's
set.
your pride of place, all the
It
things
is.
you've
It's
made.
my
That's
trophy
amazing.
shelf.
I totally agree with this, Melissa. I was just gonna say when you were commenting that you were getting bad comments, I remember, and listen, my memory is not great, but like I remember that as an overall very positive experience, that campaign. But when did that campaign launch, Ali Man? It was in
It was in 2021. It was like May
oh,
2021.
gotcha.
And I thought that by the end of the year it'd be going out to people. And the biggest surprise for me was that I gave all the stuff I needed to my manufacturer. I put money to them, and then they didn't say a word to me for a while. And so I told them what my schedule was and what I intended. So when it was coming around to the end of that year, or close to October, maybe November, I was like, okay, everyone, we should be done with manufacturing, heading to shipping soon. And I was like, hey, manufacturer, you haven't said anything. Does that mean everything's on timetable and we're fine? And they're like, oh, we haven't even gotten the paper yet. And I was like, oh, you never told me that. You never told me there were any delays. I just assumed no news is good news, because that's all I had done before. I had never had a
Yeah.
project be anywhere near that large. I didn't know that I had to follow the manufacturing closely, because normally I was doing small print runs of like 500 things, not
Yeah.
40,000. So I just thought things were working.
Like everything
And it
was
turned out they were
fine. We're
not.
good. We're trucking along.
And because it got so delayed, it ended up being like a year after that everything finally was officially out,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
people were not happy about it. I try to be really transparent, but the problem is I wasn't staying on top of the information from my manufacturer because they weren't giving me any, and I would
It's
ask
going
and
to
I
be
wouldn't
hard.
get much. So I'd just share what I
Yeah.
heard because I thought
Yeah.
that meant, okay, that's working. This is the new timeline. It'll be 3 more months. No, it was another year. So there was a lot of people who were
Oh,
frustrated, and probably fairly, but because there were 20,000 people,
it
even
only
if it's
takes
a
you
really
to,
small vocal
yeah,
minority,
yeah,
it was just totally overwhelming for me as
yeah,
someone who before
absolutely.
that had less than a tenth of that on a project
Yeah,
before.
I
My
can't even
biggest thing before
imagine.
that was 1,500 people. So I was like, it
Yeah,
feels like everyone hates me. I
yeah,
was like, the
yeah.
world is against me. No one's happy. I'm the worst person on earth. And so I was like fighting with people in the
Oh,
comments. I was like, be
so
nice to
stressful.
me.
Yeah, I'm just a human. It's actually kind of
It's
it's
wild.
interesting. My first campaign had actually been the first Kickstarter campaign I ever backed, I mean, had been the last Unicorn Tarot, which I think was like 2 years delayed, I want to say. I
Yeah,
think it took like about 3 years start
I
to finish.
remember that.
And I think that one sort of being my first one just changed my expectations as a backer. So I just got real patient with everybody else. I was just like, it's fine. This is just a
Yeah.
year. What are y'all complaining about? What's your problem? Now, in fairness, I've gotten less patient over time. But I did go through a nice long period of being like super like chill about it. I was like, it'll show up when it shows up, guys. What's the big
Yeah.
deal? But I have to echo what you said. When you do anything, put anything out into the world, no matter what it is, it takes a shockingly, surprisingly tiny amount of people being absolute asshats to make you hate it. Truly, you can get 1,000 positive comments, and it can be that one that just is like, because it's almost like I had an experience this past week, and I was like, how is it possible that anybody who's like watched my content or watched what I put out for any length of time thinks whatever this person thought about whatever I had put out? And I just remember it can be so demoralizing. Like, it can break you down so quickly, and you're like, why am I doing any of this? Like, this is so pointless. It's like I go insta drama queen on it because maybe it's because I do sometimes think maybe it's because the vast majority of people, at least for me, have been so incredibly kind and supportive that then when somebody comes out of the woodwork being like awful, I'm like, but
What do you mean?
why? Why is this
That
happening?
is so real. I've
Yeah,
definitely had so many moments where if I'm patient on my projects now, usually someone else comes in and replies to those kinds of comments and is like,
yeah,
actually, this is what's happening. And actually, Seven's been really communicative and all these updates, you should go read
yeah,
them. And so I'm like, if I'm just patient and I try not to take it personal, and that's the number one thing, right?
100%.
Going from my biggest project is 1,500 people, and that was surprising to me, to 20,000. it was too hard not to think about it personally. But for everyone else who was there, it was the biggest tarot Kickstarter of all time. It was like,
Yeah.
I'm a business and they're coming to buy something. And for them, it
Yes.
wasn't personal in any way. And at
No,
that
they were
time, I
seeing you
wasn't
as a person, individual, so
exactly.
much as an entity. That's
So that was the
definitely
thing I wasn't ready for at all. I
yeah.
wasn't ready to be treated as a business. I was still one person doing things in a really small way. And
Yep,
so things that
absolutely.
I found that helps so much is I try to do video updates as often as possible on my projects, because when people can see me and they can hear my tone of voice, whatever I'm saying is always so much more personal, and people are way less often likely to like be just a dick to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I also feel like I get misunderstood a lot. Like, I'm on the spectrum, I over explain myself all the time, and I think that a lot of times people see me write like a paragraph response and they're like, oh, so you're really mad about it and you have to get really deep. It's like, no, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure I'm understood. I want to make sure
Yeah.
that you don't misunderstand what I'm saying.
It
And I
is
think that when you
cool.
talk, it just helps a lot with that.
I think if people have a face to the entity of the business or the project or whatever, it definitely helps. I do think that's one of the reasons I've been really lucky. My Kickstarters people were incredibly nice, and I
Mm.
had no real negativity to report at all. One or two comments that maybe were a little bit more blunt, but I just was like, oh, they probably just want to know what's going on. I guess I'll just tell them,
Yeah.
and it was fine. But I do think part of that is because my face is out there all the time, like with the people that do end up finding my projects a lot of time because I'm so present on social, like on YouTube and
Hmm.
hanging out and chatting with people. I do think that makes a difference. So yeah, seeing your face for sure.
Oh,
We
it's
have a couple
so better.
questions. Yeah, so much better. So Melissa asked earlier, what is your suggestion to best get to know the normal tarot? I admit I don't know this project very well, but Melissa says you have she has edition 2, second edition.
So the second edition came in either gold or silver. This just happens to be reachable for me. It's just
I
on
love
one
that.
of my
That's
many shelves.
amazing. That's how it should always be.
This was the guidebook for the gold deck. Do you have the gold or silver? It doesn't really matter. They're the same deck, they just have different art. This is really funny because someone else is also asking a question just now about if there's any products I've made that don't personally connect with me.
Same person.
Oh, it's literally the same
Yeah.
person. Thanks,
Same
Melissa.
person.
Love you. And these things are really tightly tied. So when I was starting out, I was trying to only do my own things. But when I first started to get real traction on crowdfunding at all was when I paired up with the Caretaker, who is an academic occultist out of California, who ran normal horoscopes on Tumblr.
Yeah.
It was a really huge blog. It was one of the blogs that gets recommended to you when you start a Tumblr account because it was one of the biggest. And the Caretaker is a really cool person, came up with their own tarot deck called the Normal Tarot, which is super abnormal, which is why you're struggling to learn it. And I became the publisher alone for the Normal Tarot. It's a project that is still pretty like recent. I just did the third edition last year. We just shipped that out not too long ago. But it's a deck that it doesn't resonate with me very much. It's not a personal project for me. I edited and laid out the book, and that's about all I did. So as far as projects that I've done, anything that I've made that was like my deal,
Your idea.
I'm always super connected to it, and that never changes for me. I feel so narcissistic sometimes. I go to my bookshelf and I pull off one of my books of poetry, and I'll sit down and just read it again because I'm so excited
I
about
love
it.
that.
But the Normal Tarot is a deck that has never connected with me, so I'm maybe the worst person to ask about how to get to know it, because when someone's like, oh, can you give me a reading with it, I'm like, yes, but we're gonna have to sit
Yeah.
down together. We might reference the guidebook that I edited and laid out but do not know very well.
Yeah.
I was solely the publisher, so actually my best suggestion is that the Caretaker talks about the Normal Tarot all the time on the Normal Horoscopes Tumblr blog, and you can actually learn different ways to read it there. Also, the Caretaker is now known as Crypto Theism on Blue Sky and Tumblr. So if you reach out with like an ask on any of those platforms, the Caretaker is really, really good at talking about the deck because the deck was so personally tailor-made by them for themselves. It's how they prefer to read tarot.
Oh, gotcha.
So I highly suggest that you talk to the Caretaker about the Normal Tarot because they just have really cool things to say about it. They think about it as like a poker hand. They only ever read like in 5 cards, and how they pair together and how the cards interact and speak to each other mean a lot for what the reading is about, in a way that you don't get with tarot spreads, because that's just not how the Caretaker reads, which I think is really cool.
So very different. It's a very different system. It sounds like very unique.
It is, but I
Yeah.
feel you can still use the deck for like your traditional Celtic Cross style readings, your 3-card readings, because I've done that. I'm
Yeah.
just not as familiar with the deck, so
Yeah.
I will send you to the master who knows.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I know it's gonna be like asking you to pick a favorite child, but of all the projects you have done, does one stand out as like, this is like my baby, like this is my darling?
We're in it right now.
I love that. I was wondering. I
The
feel like
Oracle dice are
especially
my
where it goes.
baby. You
Yeah.
know, I love all of my projects for different reasons. I love everything I've made for all kinds of different reasons. And I do love the Alaman's Tarot so much. I love it, I think, more than anything for what it gave to me and allowing me to like really set up my business because it was so
Yeah.
successful, and all the lessons learned. But the Oracle dice are my own divination system that I made, you know, from the ground up. And I have always been so proud of them. They're my go-to divination tool. If I am at because where I do most of my divination is like parties or get-togethers where I just set up on a table. I'm like, all right, who wants their future told?
Reading.
I love to bring my tarot deck there, and my tarot deck that I used to take to the bars is right over here somewhere. But it's my favorite thing ever. My Oracle dice. It's just the best. So I'm so excited about the 3rd edition because I'm finalizing the original set, like the new season set, which is just the original set in its final form, is like that's it. That's the thing. The key keepers are very fun, but they're still new. So I would say that it's that right there in the middle of our screen. That's my baby. I love it so much. It is tactile. It rolls. It feels delightful. And I feel like I get such easy, intuitive narratives out of them that I don't always necessarily get in tarot.
I love that. Jonathan asks what your favorite use of the Oracle dice is. Jonathan has the 2nd edition, only uses it for himself, but and only picks out a handful of the dice. Which I have to say, by the way, before you answer, I have to say, I legitimately, when I had the 1st edition, thought I was supposed to read all 14, like all together. And I got so overwhelmed so quickly that I was like, I can't, my brain can't. And when I saw with this just latest content you've been putting out about the new edition, I was like, wait, you don't have to use them all this. No. Okay. And so when I saw you say like start with the seasons and then like maybe pick out 1 or 2 others, I was like, for reals?
For reals? Like I don't have to blow my mind to figure out all 14 dice every time?
And you would think that like, but this is how my brain is, right? Like I want to work with the things the way they're intended. And so I can get very locked up in that. But anyways, I'm sorry. So carry on. Your favorite use of Oracle dice.
I just want to say, like, first of all, that's so real. I rarely even can read with 14 dice.
Yeah.
When I'm picking out, I try to get up to about 8 or 9, and that's usually where I stop.
Yeah.
Especially now that there's 22, and now that there's a whole new 22 dice set to make it 44. I just pick out the ones that speak to me at the moment, but because I made them, I have a lot more general knowledge of like, oh, this will cover this topic, this will do this topic. So that's something you just would learn with time.
Absolutely.
But my favorite use of the Oracle dice is generally storytelling, right? I am using it all the time to do divination for people, but the way that I always approach divination, because I got so used to doing tarot readings in bars for strangers, I would always tell them, I'm going to tell you a story and you're going to relate it to your question. And either it's going to support your question and help you find that your answer was already correct, or it's going to come from a complete new perspective. And now you're going to think about it in a new way. And that's going to help you come up with better answers yourself. So I always just tell people, this is a psychological tool that I'm going to use to help you figure out your problem a little better. And that's just how I have thought about them ever since. To me, they are a storytelling tool. And I use them for divination, if that makes sense.
No,
like they're Oracle dice by name, but they tell stories. And that's kind of like the running theme that keeps coming up in everything I've made lately. Everyone's like, oh, the Alleyman podcast is about storytelling and who gets to own the concept of the story that's being told. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess all I do is write things about telling a story.
It's actually funny you say that because everything that I create, story is really important to me. My first tarot deck literally tells a story from the Fool all the way through the 10 of Pentacles. And so literally I had to have the story before I could have the deck. My newest tarot project each card has like a little like snippet, almost like you were like peeking into part of a story, if that makes sense.
Ooh,
There's like a
yeah.
little snippet of a story. But the funny thing is, I could not conceptualize, even begin the process to conceptualize the art until I had the story in both cases, which is so interesting. So like I already know, even though like my first one is like one cohesive story around one central character, and my second deck is like all these other characters, and we're getting peeks into their lives and their individual stories. But story for me is like lays underneath most of my creative work. And I don't know if that's something about how my brain works, but I find it difficult actually to wrap my head around systems that don't have, or that I can't build a story around. And it creates that like sort of like skeletal framework, I guess, of a system for me. It's baked into the tarot, even with the Fool's Journey. The fact that I can tell a story in the Fool's Journey is, I think, part of why, and through each individual minor arcana suit, I think is part of why tarot and me get along so well. Because when I look at the Five of Swords, I'm not just thinking about the Five of Swords. I'm thinking about, okay, well, you come out of a Four of Swords moment and you're heading into a Six of Swords moment. You're in the space between in the Five of Swords. It's always connected for me. So like that string, or having story that lies underneath, makes so much sense. And when you apply that then to the way you read, I think you open up a lot of possibility for yourself as a reader.
That's so true. That's so real. I'm thinking about that right now, and I'm actually just thinking about like the two tarot decks that I have that are coming out kind of alongside the Oracle dice, and how one of them is doing that and one of them isn't. So in the Hot Housewives Tarot, which is like kind of a lambasting of 50s American exceptionalism and Americana vibes, it doesn't have a narrative thread through it, like almost at all. And that's something that I'm just now realizing is one of the reasons that it feels a little bit disconnected in that way to me. And I had never actually thought about why that was. But in the Misery Tarot, the major arcana is a direct storyline, and each of the minors is a traveling through a house in the Misery Tarot space, which it does go on like a journey to start to finish in each one of those spaces. And that's you just articulated for me why that one feels more cohesive to me and the Hot Housewives Tarot doesn't. And that's so weird. I hadn't even put that together, even though I'm literally saying over and over, stories are so important to me. Stories are what my art is about.
It's kind of funny because I was brainstorming with, so my two best friends are both very artistic and creative as well, and we were all talking about our creative process, and for both of them, they function differently. Like they create the thing, like the art, the chaos, the whatever it is they're building or writing or imagining, and then structure kind of comes second. I am literally the exact opposite. If I don't have the structure, I cannot seem to play. It's like I need that container first, and then I can like bounce around all chaotic energy inside of that container, but I need the container first. So that's so interesting. That's so fascinating. We have a couple questions. I don't want to lose track of them. So and I'm such a squirrel, as you can tell, but Melissa says, what is the difference between this coming dice set versus the other dice? Now, are you asking for clarity? Maybe you could throw it in the chat, thinking like key keepers versus seasons, or old edition seasons, new edition seasons, like just to clarify.
I think I can answer both, because that's been a recurring question that I've been having. I was doing my best to try to make it clear, like, hey, the second edition dice are now just called the seasons. The only thing that's going to update is the guidebook, and also the fact that there's a box. It didn't come with a box for the set originally, so that is going to be an option. You can just pay $5 for an empty box if you want to put your old set in something, and $15 for the new guidebook, which also comes with the cheat sheet cards, which
the cheat sheet cards, we have to talk about those.
They are great.
Brilliant.
They have the faces of the die. They're color coded to match. It tells you what die it is at the top. There's also going to be text right here that tells you what book, what guidebook, in case you have both sets, it's in, and what page number it's on. So they just walk you through them. These just are obvious inclusion I should have been doing in the second edition.
I lost my mind, by the way, which you'll see Tuesday when I talk about it. But like when I discovered that you had, hold on, let me show. When I discovered you had color coded the edges of the pages to match the die faces. So funny story about pages is, back in the day, I used to take, whenever I'd get a new tarot guidebook, I would take Sharpies and I would color the edges of the pages, like down the sides, purple for majors, red for wands, blue for
Ooh.
cups, yellow for swords,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
green for pentacles or whatever, right? And I would do that so that when I'm flipping through the guidebook, I can easily go to the section I need. With these dice, I feel like I remembered with the first edition dice, it was actually really hard to find things
The
in the
book was
guidebook.
black and white.
Yeah, I couldn't remember 100%. I was pretty sure though. And so this was for me the most exciting thing because I'm like, okay, I don't have to memorize everything. And when I roll a die, I can just quickly flip and find it. But the cards take this to like that next, even more easy level.
Oh, fully.
And you could even just maybe not. I don't know. There's probably 22 cards. They probably won't fit. But I was just gonna say I was thinking in my head, even just like throwing them in the box or whatever, or throwing them in like I have the little bag, this little thing, and I put them
Oh
all.
yeah, the gleaming alley bag.
Yeah. But I was like, I could put the cards in there. And the cards are exciting to me because I do think most of the time what we need the book for is that initial quick reference. Okay, what is this die face telling me roughly? And then going from there. So the season set is this is the second edition that I'm showing on the screen.
Which is now the
This
season
is
set, and the dice are the exact same.
so nothing has changed about the dice. Is there anything else besides the book that has changed? Are the dice are the same?
The only
the
thing that
box?
will change with the dice is that quality control will hopefully be a little better for the metamorphosis die, the
Which
actions
ones are these?
die, the
Oh, that's
majors
this
die.
one. Oh yeah, we were
Those
chatting about
ones
this one.
can really struggle on some of the dice that went out with really dark ink for some reason. They're not supposed to be dark. They're supposed to be a really bright orange. So that's why that die is so difficult to see. Like this is it.
Oh, that's way different. Oh, that's what you meant.
And for some reason, I don't know. I assume it's just quality control. They just, for some reason, used whatever orange ink for some of them, but not all of them. Some of them went out looking like this. Some of them went out looking like that, and I don't know why.
Interesting.
The actions die, likewise. This is that purple and pink one. It looks like yours is a little bit darker than mine. Maybe not. Maybe it's just camera, but mine looks like it's a little easier to read. And some of them just went out that way. And I found that a little bit tiring. And for a few people, your majors looks just fine. The black and red ink die. But some people got dark red ink, and it's basically brown, and it's hard to see. So the only real difference to the dice, hopefully, will be a better check of the ink colors for those three dice. Those are the three problem dice I always think about. That tend to be issues. But someone did tell me that their D12 in the middle had
I think that was me.
Dark
Mine
blue.
seems a little bit lower contrast. It's not too bad though. It could just be my reading table lights. I feel like if this was like as bright as say the blue in the winter die, it would be a little bit easier to see. But it's not too bad. If my light is bright enough. Oh yeah, yours does seem bright, but
it could seems a little brighter. I feel like you just received weirdly dark dice. and that's the thing, is that overall, we don't seem to know.
Yeah, I was gonna say overall, and you can't tell because this stuff goes from your manufacturer into a sealed package. It's not like you're looking at every single thing, and I'm assuming you use a fulfillment center. You do because it came from a fulfillment center, right?
I do for all my projects anymore because they got so big. The first edition of the dice, I actually everything came to me, and the dice were just all one box. There was like 3 boxes of each single die design. So I would have 3 boxes of winter dice, 3 boxes of summer. I sat, me personally, on my couch surrounded by boxes and packed them into the baggies.
Like
to make the 14 dice sets. It took me days. I watched movies after movie after movie just doing that to put together the sets because I shipped and made those all together myself. So I'm so thankful I have fulfillment people who can do that now. However, that means that there are dice that go out that I'm like, how did we send out a purple die with like the darkest orange ink on earth? Why would we do that? You can't see it. You don't know what it means.
Gotcha.
That's not helpful.
I imagine this is actually quite a process, though, to figure out even how to find the right color combinations for the contrast you need and the vibe you want for each die. And you did this twice because you have a 22 set die here. And then, so tell us a little bit about Key Keepers, if you don't mind, because
that's kind of the other side to this question, and also Jonathan's question here. Is what is the difference between the second and third edition of the dice, and then what's new kind of between the seasons and the Key Keepers? So The seasons dice, as I was just saying, the dice themselves aren't changing, except hopefully the ink colors will all be good so you can tell what your dice are, even in
Yeah.
dim light. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, again, the season set, just the guidebook is updating. And what's updating in the guidebook specifically, the dice meanings are generally being untouched. I might just clear up a few things that were unclear. But it's all the stuff before and after the dice meanings that I'm basically rewriting. I, in the second edition, pretty much just use the first edition guidebook stuff. And I feel like I
Okay.
can tackle how to approach the dice in some new ways now that maybe it'll just be easier to learn. So everything before the meanings and after the meanings changing, plus they're coming with the cheat sheets, and actually the Lord cards will be coming in the set as well. So there are 22 lords of the dice, and they are lovingly illustrated. They're just going to come with the guidebook because the guidebook actually includes the information about what these cards mean. So
Yeah.
I
So
feel
like
like they
the
might as well just come with the set.
yeah, these okay, so these actually threw me when my members and I were hanging out and I pull out the lords. I'm like, there's no key. I'm like, what do I do with these? What am I supposed to do? I will say, actually, before you answer that, sorry, I just
Yeah.
remembered something else I wanted to bring up. I noticed that the font on the cards, the die cards and the Lord's cards, is that being updated by chance in future?
That's something that I've been thinking about because they're very, very thin. It was just something that I'm just going to ask the artist if we can update to the new font that we've actually been using for the project, which is more legible,
Ah,
generally
yes,
speaking.
gotcha.
Because that font is number one, it's pretty narrow, and it's fairly small, especially on the final cards. I'm looking at some of those early test cards I had, so
It's
they are
definitely like
harder
an
to read.
age thing for me, I think, with my eyes, but I was on the struggles trying to read on the die. So I thought I'd ask because like that is something
They're
that I
pretty
definitely
pretty
noticed.
small.
But back to the Lords, I'm sorry, like I said, I'm a
No,
squirrel,
no,
but
that's a really good one to mention. And, something
yeah,
that someone just said in my live stream yesterday was it's really cool you have those strips on the side of the guidebook that say like what die section we're in. In the
yeah.
table of contents, can you also color code the table of contents so I don't have to try to figure out which thing is which? And I was like, that's such an easy, obvious fix that I just had never thought about because the table of contents is black and white. But if you don't already know what all the dice are, that's an unusable thing.
That's a very good point. So maybe like even like a little icon showing the die face or
Yeah,
something
so I'm thinking
next to
about die
each.
face, color coding the things. Another thing people have asked, because there are stone dice, um,
I was
they're
gonna ask
like,
about
"How do
that.
I know which stone die is which?" And I'm like,
I was like, I can't get the stone dice because they won't match the bars in the
"I don't
book.
know." And the problem was, like, at the time, I didn't have the stone dice in hand while I was working on the book, so I couldn't, like,
Yeah.
take a picture of the die and include it or something, but I can do that, and I'm just gonna make sure that the Keykeeper set is something I have in hand so I can take pictures to include in the guidebook.
Yeah.
And on the cheat sheet cards, I'm actually gonna just put them like a picture of the stone die in the corner, so
Perfect.
that you can be like, "Oh, this is that one." Um,
Yeah.
so there's so many little quality of life things that can be updated to make them so much
Uh-huh.
more accessible. Because even now, a lot of people are saying, "I don't know how to work with my dice yet, and I've had them since the second edition. What do I do?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm making the tools to make it easier. I promise.
Yeah, those things, these are like it reminds me of like when you're playing a video game and you want to add mods, but all your mods are like have better inventory management or like better this. It's like quality of life things that will just make the deck or the dice easier to work with because
Fully.
I'll tell you right now, game changer, just those colored bars. And I'm like, I will use these so much more often because of
Mhm.
that little change. And it's things like as a creator, you don't always think about or encounter as an issue until well after your thing is out in the world. And then you're like, oh, actually, this would have been a really useful thing. But you
Yep.
can't correct it until you do a future edition or run or whatever. So it's neat to see that happening. So when you first came up with this, it sounds like the season sat at the core of this set.
Yeah.
And then the idea was that you had all these other dice over time that you built, you expanded over time that you could
Mhm.
add in. So if you wanted to cover a certain like area of life, you could pull in a die that would like be relevant to that and start to build different readings. Is the key keeper set similar in that the key keepers are like the foundational?
They are, but what I found out in all the readings I've been doing lately, just because normally when I read with the dice, I will do a reading and then I have a break and then I maybe if I'm at a party or something, like, oh, I might do a number in a row, but it's pretty quick and I have a bunch of tools at once. So sometimes people are like, actually, I want a tarot reading. It's not often that I just do 16 dice readings in a row, but because I've been doing these reading live streams, I have gotten to this point where I'm like, I'm not gonna look. I'm gonna grab random dice while I stare at the camera, and now that's what I'm rolling. And I've realized that even though the seasons are the core dice of the set to me, and that's where I usually like to start and then add dice to go further, they work so well in any random order. So maybe I need to be a little less picky with how I start. But the key keepers were intended to be, these are 7 dice that make up the core of your readings, and then the other dice are sort of optional, depending on what topics you might want to hit, because I find I never read with just the 4 seasons dice unless I want to show how deep the reading can be with just 4 dice. And then that's just kind of like, I'm really interpreting like every little thing right now. Well, this is the summer die, but it was in spring, so this thing's actually coming too soon. What does that mean? And then, oh, winter and autumn are paired. Does this mean something about this time being shortened? And it's like, yeah, you can do that, but you don't have to be that focused. I usually end up reading with 7 to 9 dice. And so for the key keepers, I was like, there's 7 in the core set. You can read with just those, and they kind of reach across a bunch of different topics to be a full reading on their own. And that was kind of important to me, that if I was going to reinterpret in this way, that's something I wanted to explore. So the key keepers are definitely the basis of their set.
So what's the inspiration behind the key keepers? Who are they? What's their deal?
Yeah. So the key keepers, and I guess kind of just hitting Jonathan's question real fast. Do the new dice work with the second edition? Yes. The seasons and the key keepers totally interact. Because they hit a bunch of other topics, or they hit similar topics in new ways that I have all 44 of the dice just like in a bundle right now on my desk. And when I'm doing my live streams, which are Mondays and Fridays, I just mix and match to my heart's content. And I've had no issues. They work perfectly well together. The key keepers come from a space that the Lords also kind of came from. When I did the first edition dice, there were 14 dice. They were just dice. You roll them, they do the thing. When I was going to the second edition, one of the things that I felt was really missing was because of the simplicity of the symbols. Number one, I was missing tarot art because I was doing a lot of tarot stuff, and I was thinking, like, how do I bring tarot art to this? The dice can't be tarot art on their faces. They have to be simple for a lot of reasons. And I began to think...
My dog is coughing behind me, sorry.
That's okay. We all need to cough, you know?
We do.
I just started thinking, what if the dice do have a bigger story and I can just tell it in the book? And I was like, well, what if they're just on tarot cards? And then what if the dice are just represented by a personification of kind of what they're about? And that's how I started working on the Lords. And that really worked for me. And then with the keys are a project I've been thinking about for a long time. They're actually unrelated to the dice in any way. I'm working on a set of 7 keys that will be different types of metal that would come with a like grimoire that gives you rituals and like daily things that you do with the keys as kind of an intention setting ritual system. I'm really, really excited about that in concept, but it requires me to have a lot more time on my hands to work through it and do a lot of this daily mindful practice with these keys in the first place. So they're kind of on the horizon. But in the meantime, I was like, what if the core dice of this second set, to fill it out, hearken to these keys? So I started thinking a lot more about the keys and putting a little more intention into what each key is about. And thinking about what the Lords and the dice would be. What are 6 facets of what this key does and what it's about? And that's where the key keepers came about. They are, to me, like the personification of these keys that I have yet to get to. So I got to kind of marry a bunch of things together. I was like, okay, my Oracle dice actually have a bunch of different pieces here. If I added 7, 8, or 9 dice, like I could make this a whole second set. What does that look like? And that's how I got there. The key keepers are kind of one entity that represent the keys system, and they have 7 faces as a rotation through the different phases of the day.
So when you were building out, so you had your key keepers, which sound to me kind of like primary archetypal kind of energy that you can work with, much in the way you would work with maybe the major arcana of the tarot. Kind of feels that way to me when I hear you talk about it. So when you were building out the other dice that were going to go with that set, were there ones where you're like, man, I thought whenever I go to do a reading with my season set, I always feel like when a certain type of question comes up, I don't have like this energy. Did that go into building out what you wanted to sort of add into the keykeeper set, like things you felt like weren't quite fully included yet? Or did you take a totally different approach to building out that other set?
So there's like a really weird thing that happens here where the season set to me feels really full. There's generally not a question that I receive where I don't feel confident I have the dice necessary to kind of hit it. But I also recognize that a lot of that is me as the designer of the tool, where I am also thinking about nuances to particular dice that don't fit what's in the guidebook. And that's one of those hard things where I know I'll probably get people eventually who are like, will you ever do a die that hits this topic? And I'm like, well, I feel like I already did. And they're like, it's not in the guidebook. It's not explained anywhere. And I'm like, oh yeah, because it's in my brain. That's not helpful. So for me, I think of the season set as a complete set, and you don't actually need anything else ever. However, because I had 3 dice from the Alleyway Oracles, which were kind of homeless in that they didn't go in the season set. They weren't in that guidebook at all, but they came with the cheat sheet cards. That's actually where the cheat sheet cards came from. This is how I gave meanings to the 3 dice that came in one of the add-ons during the Alleyway Oracles project. And it's what people latched onto, and they're like, will you do cards like those for the full sets? Because that'd be really helpful. So I had these 3 dice that were just floating. And I was like, I'll bring them back when I do a 3rd printing of the season set. At the time, that was just the Oracle dice. There was no intention to do a 2nd set. I'm like, I'll bring back those 3 dice. And then I thought, well, for the deluxe edition of the Housewives Tarot and the Misery Tarot, I was doing 5 dice sets because I thought that would be something fun to throw in. You can read them with your tarot, and they might help point things in particular directions. But I hadn't thought about them necessarily relating to the Oracle dice. They were kind of separate. When I looked at that and I was like, okay, hold on. I have 5 dice here. I have 5 dice there. I have 3 dice here. That's already 13 dice. What if I offered them in just like a package thing to be like, these are the extra dice? And then I was like, well, it's not fun to have extra dice. So will they come with a guidebook? I was like, yeah, I guess they could. And I was like, well, 13 dice. That's almost the size of the original dice set. I mean, it's kind of just its own dice set.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, okay, but they're really disparate. They don't fit together. They're just like expansions. They don't do anything together. And that's when I started thinking, what do I have to do to fill this out to make it into a set? And that's when I started working on the key keepers. So the key keepers are actually what came about to be the glue to make the set kind of whole to me. And so it worked really backwards from where the season set dice did, where they started the seasons.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, the core of the key keepers are actually the stuff that came about to try to fill in the gaps. But having done readings with my very, very official, this always cracks me up when I pull these out on my live streams. I'm like, I know these are dice with stickers on them and my handwriting all over them. This is how I'm reading with the Keykeeper set before they exist in the real world. Reading with them, they actually are such a system together. I grabbed the 5 Housewives dice and the 5 Misery Tarot dice and did a reading yesterday. And it had such a very potent energy that doesn't exist in the season set, because they hit topics that don't exist there, that I can find ways to make exist if I use certain dice in certain ways. But they really hit new energies that I just hadn't been prepared for. And in some ways, they accidentally lead their way into a system of their own.
Yeah.
And that's it's beautiful.
It's
but
so
it was
cool.
very much accidental in some ways.
That's amazing though, because what I was going to kind of ask, I guess, is that for you, because these kind of came up and you've created them over time and they've built up in you've got all this headcanon, right, about these dice.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels one way. But for somebody who has, like, say they already have the seasons set, and then they're thinking, okay, well, I want to get maybe the newest edition of the season set, and I want to back for the Keykeeper set. Is there something you would tell people to be like, have you noticed in your time reading with them, and I know you've kind of mixed and matched, but have you noticed there might be certain types of questions where you naturally gravitate toward your key keepers, or where you might gravitate more toward the original like season set, depending on the energy? Because it kind of sounds like the key keepers have a certain type of energy of their own.
They definitely do. So there's sometimes when someone asks for like a general reading where I'll be like, okay, in the season set, if someone asks, I just want a general reading or I want to know vaguely what's happening in my life, I'll grab the 4 seasons and then I'm like, okay, what is general? And depending on the day, I'll grab different things. But the fact that there's not like a core of like, this is what a general reading is. In the key keepers, I'll grab the 7 key keepers. The 7 keys dice are a general reading for themselves, and that works really well. Also, there's the obvious part of the Misery Tarot for those who aren't familiar, because it was a totally different campaign. The Misery Tarot is a deck that's focused on the grief or the trauma journey of healing. It follows the 7 stages of grief, which is just a little more nitpicky than the 5 stages. And the dice are sort of related in kind of their themes. One of them is the weapons dice, which focuses on different forms of pain or how we're hurt in different ways. And there's the wounds dice in the season set, which you might think that's very similar, but they're so different. The wounds die is how you are hurt or what wounds you feel. And the weapons dice, it's the like peachy one with the red ink in the bottom left on the camera here.
This one.
This is the wounds die.
Okay.
So it talks about if you are shot through the head, which is about having a very specific thing. If you have a gut punch wound where it feels like you've maybe been betrayed, all the air is taken out of you. The weapons die is more about like the violence being done in a way and how it's being done. And it does something totally different, which I didn't quite expect. I thought they would be very overlappy, but they're not. But also there's like the pillars die in that set, which is about what's really core to you as a person, what things you rely on to get through struggles. And that's just not something that's in the season set. So when I think about what things this covers, I feel like the housewives dice really cover a lot of social change and things you're dealing with that maybe deal with larger things than you, politics, economics, society, where the misery tarot dice really focus on maybe how you've been hurt or how people are doing hurting to others, and also what the journey through that looks like, how you're surviving. And those just aren't things that are in the seasons explicitly. So there's definitely certain topics now where I'm like, I have better focused tools for it. So I think that's just generally a very helpful thing. And the key keepers also approach things in what feels weirdly to me like more practical in your house. And I think it's because I think about the keys as the keys thing that I haven't even done yet. And they feel like a daily practice, where the seasons feel a little more open and tarot-y to people who aren't familiar with tarot, if that makes sense. It feels a little more mystic, whereas the key keepers feel a little more in your house. This is what you should do day to day.
Which is so interesting. You saying that is so interesting, because as I was listening to you talk about the key keepers, in my head, I was categorizing it completely opposite. Right? I was like, these feel to me so like in your day-to-day life, like what you need to know, like what you need to work on or be aware of, or like how to approach things. And the way you're describing key keepers to me sounds like we go into the deeper underbellies and the underlayers of all of that, which is so interesting, because like, but it is very clear hearing you talk that they are going to feel functionally quite different. And while you can mix and match between the two, you're going to get a different vibe out of your readings working with the key keeper set versus working with the season set, if you work with them and kind of get to know them as individual systems or individual sets, which I think is really cool. We should talk about the campaign a little bit. Melissa asked, sorry, I can't find my glasses. Could you go over what is in the wood season set? I can actually pull up the campaign page. So why don't we do that? Let me just see if I can pull it up, and then maybe we could go over the different tiers for people.
Yeah, let's do that.
Helpful. Okay, so let me grab that and put that on the screen. Oh, it would help if I actually open it up first in a new tab. Okay, goblins. There we go.
I like how as soon as I open the page, my face is white. I am just being bathed in the glow of my campaign.
You are ethereal today. That is the vibe. All right. Let me. Oh, I might be already nicely zoomed in. So let me just grab this and throw it on our screen. And then let's see, let's try maybe this view. Oh, it would help if I add it. There we go. I might need to put us somewhere else. Hold on. Let's see what's a better view
thank you,
for
Barb,
this.
for sharing the campaign page. You're doing great.
Yeah, Barb is like our queen moderator. She makes sure we get
it.
all the links, which is incredible. Okay, so and there's also a link in the description box down there for people. So let's, you know, this platform probably better than I do. So, oh, there we go. Pledge levels.
Yeah, so there is like a click thing that can take you places. So we can go to the pledge levels. So what we have at the start here, we have the seasons and the Keykeeper set. They're separate sets of the dice. They come in a magnet closed box on their own. They also have the guidebook, the two-sided reading cloth, and the cheat sheet cards, the Lord's cards, and the dice themselves. Those are your very basics. So if you haven't gotten anything, you don't have anything to do with Oracle dice, you could grab either the seasons or the keys. Either one would be a whole system to itself that you could learn. If you're brave and you want to step up, you can do the third one here, the Goblin's Chest of Dice. This is a special made modified jewelry box that I'm having a jewelry box company make. And it is got drawers for everything. You can fit your guidebooks in there, your cloths. And then the Oracle dice actually fit in the top compartment, which has a glass top. You open that and it has inserts, so you can set the dice in there. And also you can fit the wooden boxes in there, which we're about to hit next. So it fits all of your goodies. It also has the first drawer in it, which is my favorite thing, has 4 spaces for tarot decks with ribbons, so you can lift
I saw the ribbons.
I'm really, really hyped about that.
Yeah, so you can lift the individual deck out with its little lift ribbon. Yep. That is amazing.
We love that.
Yeah, we love it. Oh my God.
So the wood boxes are these guys here. They are not standard. They don't come with anything automatically, but the woods sets basically just get you these. You can also in the add-ons buy a wooden box on its own without having to get it as part of a set, but it holds all 22 dice in it, which is just delightful. The actual ones that we're getting, I just showed you one of the old ones that had the goblin face on it, but the actual ones we have this here with the symbols of the set on the front. So if you're really meticulous, like sometimes I am, I put the dice exactly where they belong because they're directly over the positions.
I can't because I will have to always put them in their precise place every single time.
Did I do a good job here? No, everything is out of order.
So how quickly it falls apart.
I'm not meticulous. But there are 2 different engraving options. One is for the season set, one's for the key set. So if you bought the wood season set, for example, you would get the box that has its symbols etched on top. And you also get the full normal set. So you get the box with the dice, the guidebook, the cloth, the cheat sheet cards. So the wood ones are just a way for you to get the base set plus the box that goes with them. And then the wood goblin's chest is just the chest with the sets and both boxes, wooden boxes. So it's just different ways for you to get just the things maybe you're looking for.
So when you back the wood season set or the wood Keykeeper set, you get the actual new like 2-piece sturdy box that everything comes in for each set. And you also get the wood box as an additional item, basically.
Yeah. So you could keep your dice in that, and then you could use the box that the dice came in to just keep your like guidebook and the cloth and stuff.
The other goodies,
that would be an option. I know that for myself, after I started using this, I have like I have a special fancy Renaissance leather pouch dealie that hooks onto your belt that this fits perfectly in. And this is just what I take everywhere. I leave my guidebooks at home, which I guess is a creator privilege.
It is a creator privilege.
It's a creator privilege.
This is why we need the cards, though.
I wrote that.
Tuck those into your satchel.
Exactly.
You could have the little set of cheat sheet cards, which obsessed about. And because I'm thinking it, I'm just going to ask it. Are you planning to, or do you already have an option to have just those little cheat sheet cards as like a thing you can like purchase separately?
They come with the sets, and then if you just need to update your seasons guidebook, the seasons guidebook update add-on comes with the cheat sheet cards. So that is the way to get them at the moment. A lot of people have been asking, like, can I get just the dice alone without the book or the box or any of that stuff? Can I just get an extra set of dice because I don't want to lose one? That kind of stuff is so difficult because the more piecemeal you get with every bit of a set, and you start offering everything individually,
Yeah.
It's just kind of chaos in the fulfillment center.
100%.
They
I was gonna say
struggle.
just the fact that you have this many options, like
Yeah.
wood box, no wood box, chest, no chest, this kind of stuff, y'all. I mean, I barely do physical stretch goals or add-ons or anything in any of in my stuff because my brain can't. It's too many things to track. It's too many things to try to organize, and every single little
Yeah.
extra thing that is packed separately has to have a separate like barcode on it for your fulfillment center to know
Yep.
if they to pick it. And it's like a whole process because I've had people ask about like the Unicorn's Journey guidebook is a separate thing physically, and I'm like, first of all, I'd have to print those all separately,
Yeah.
have them all packaged separately. I'm like, I'm sorry, no.
My
we're not doing that.
my favorite thing is with the cards and the guidebooks. Like my guidebooks are always free on my website as a PDF.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if someone wants to, and a lot of people have, because I don't lock my PDFs, they will download the PDF. They'll pull things out of it and lay it out differently, and then print it on different paper and put it in a binder. Like I try to make things as available as possible so that people can
Yeah.
do whatever they want with the stuff. The cheat sheets will be a free PDF on my website once everything's done and launched. So
Right.
even if people don't have them, they decided not to get the updated guidebook, whatever, they'll have access to the PDFs. That stuff is just kind
Yeah.
of out there. And especially with books, I like to make books available on like print on demand websites. So
Yeah.
there's like Drive Through Fiction, where I have some print on demand things that people can just go to and get those on their own. And I'd be happy to put the guidebooks up on there just so that if people want the guidebook on its own, they can just go grab it.
Oh, nice. That would be awesome.
Easy.
So now we're on the stone tiers. So, and Melissa's like losing her mind.
Yeah.
The stone.
Oh, the stones.
What's the story with these?
The stones. Okay. I did a bad job because my stones are right there. I'm going to grab them.
Okay, grab them and I can make you big and you can show us.
Stone dice.
Okay.
Stone dice are important. I do have to show them off a little bit. Now this is really funny. This was one of the first prototype boxes. This is also the first prototype stone set. In the first prototype boxes, not the ones y'all ended up with, the holes are too tight. So I actually can't pull this set out like at all.
Oh, they're just in there.
It's in here.
That's
I can pull like one out. But they're all different stones or like minerals. They are super lovely. Your set will actually come out of the box, unlike mine. But
Yeah,
this is just a pretty display piece for me at this point. It's the full 22
Are they
dice
physically
set.
bigger, just a tiny bit than the
They
plastic die, or are
do
they
seem
exactly
to
the
be a
same?
little bit bigger, just a little.
Yeah, but you've
So,
got
like,
a
let
little
me-
bit of wiggle room in this box that I have even. Yeah.
They are just
Okay,
a little
yeah.
bit bigger. That was the worst die to grab. That wasn't even a real one.
There you go.
They're very close, but they're just a little bit bigger,
Maybe
and it's because they
half
have
of
like
bigger.
sharper edges too. I think they
Yeah.
just don't let the air around them as much. But
Yeah.
also this box was just kind of too tight, and
Yeah.
that's a whoops.
It's a box issue.
We fixed it.
Is there
But
any are there any stones we would recognize in there that like we would know the properties of?
Oh gosh.
It looks like there might be one or two, but I'm not sure.
Definitely like a couple. Like this guy is a lovely little like amethysty quartzy friend. I have a whole list of what each one is on the previous campaign, and
Yeah.
I think I like saved it somewhere so I could put it on the new one, and then I don't think I've actually done that yet. I have already picked what all of the ones will be for the
Key
new
keepers.
set.
Yeah.
But obviously they haven't been made yet. They're very expensive.
I was gonna say, and also heavy. So
they are heavy. This is something you could hurt someone with.
Thunk. Because I actually have for my D&D set because Dawn, Michelle, and I did our dice casting. We have.
Of course you did.
We have. I have like petrified stone dice. Or
Yeah. Wood.
I love them, but they are weighty, and I can't imagine having. But I have to tell you, there's something, y'all, so satisfying about rolling stone dice, the weight in your hand, the way they clink. Like it's a whole thing.
So
These are my glass and my petrified wood, but oh my god. Yeah, the stone set are sexy for sure.
They're great. I do love them. When we were first talking about doing them last edition, I actually was really struggling because I was worried about what to pick. Also, it's 22 dice. So there's just so many things to consider, but also limited options for what I can pick from that is financially reasonable. So I had to work with the manufacturer's list of what they had. So some things I was like, I feel like I need to pair it well, like metaphysically, what are the properties of
That would
this
have been
thing?
impossible.
And it's like, unfortunately, it's just not very doable. Or if I had, it feels like this is a ruby. This would have been an unpurchasable set for anyone. So I worked in the confines. I tried to work visually a lot on like colors and being like, this isn't the same color as the original die, but it gets the same idea across. I had to make a lot of decisions like that. And I will say, some people asked, would there be duplicates of some stones between them? And I'm like, there have to be. Figuring out 22 that worked through the manufacturer that weren't synthetic was already really difficult. So there were inevitably going to be. I will say that because we have some new catalogs available for manufacturers, I am talking about doing completely new options for some of them. And also I think for the Keykeeper set, because the 5 misery dice and the 5 housewives dice are actually all the same base color and have different inks on them. They get to use the same stone and then different colors of ink, which I think is kind of fun.
That's
that
super
also
fun,
helps
and then you can identify
duplicate
them too.
less.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's also helpful.
Because
So
I'm like,
the
these are gonna be the same stone.
Yeah, I think it's very clear to me, like you did not call these crystal dice, which would have probably been somewhat tempting. But I think the fact that you didn't is a lot more transparent and clear with people. Look, we're not trying to associate any crystal properties here.
No.
These are stone dice meant to be satisfying stone dice to roll. But we're not trying to like literally cross-reference every single aspect. I think that would have been impossible to do in an authentic way. So I'm glad you did it this way and went for like more of an aesthetic approach instead of a metaphysical approach, so that people kind of go in knowing. But here you have in the tiers, you have the stone. So it's the same sets, the same base 2 sets. It looks like you can just get the stone, same kind of deal with the wood box, or the stone key keepers with the wood box. And these, I'm assuming, would not come within a 2-piece.
No, there will be no box. We shipped all of the stone dice out just like this. So it will be pre-put into the wooden box for you, because this is actually the best and safest way to transport them as well. They've got the felt-lined holes, the felt at the top. They're nice and secure in there. They don't move very much. So that's just the safest way to ship them too.
Absolutely.
So they won't come in the box. It'll just be all the extra stuff will just be wrapped up with it. And then you'll just get him. But everything but the empty box for the set is what you'd get there.
Perfect. And the third one over here is just to get both of them in a set, which is perfect. So
which saves you $50.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's quite a savings.
It's quite a little set savings. I recognize, one of the things that I struggle with the most as a creator is how much things cost and how much you should sell them for. I have always undervalued everything that I sell. And that's kind of what people always tell me. They're like, you should have charged more. But what's really important to me, and has always been a really important tenet, is I would rather more people in the world have the thing I make than I make more money. But that said, I really sat down with someone who knows math very well for business, and we did the numbers on what this project costs, on what ads cost, on what each item technically is costing when you count in the ads it takes to get them, plus manufacturing, plus. And in the second edition dice, the season set was $35.
What? Wow.
And we were putting in the numbers into this calculator, and he just looked at me. He's like, do you realize you didn't make any money? And I was like, yeah, I did notice when I got to the end of the campaign and we made 230,000. And after I paid all the bills, I think I had 20,000 left over to pay myself for the work. And I was like, well, that's not good.
No, so, it's not. It's hard to do.
I'm doing my damnedest to set prices at levels where it actually supports the business and me as a person, because this is my job. And when it comes to like the stone dice, I'm just like, they're so expensive and I feel terrible looking at those prices. But I'm like,
for
look,
what they are. No, I mean, like I've got a set of like wooden tiles that these are like little Lenormand tiles, right? Now this set of 36 tiles.
Oh my god, hold that to the yes, what? Oh, those are so
So
Fun.
when this
What?
creator first started making these, I have a video about when they first started making them. They were only making them for people like I had to ask personally, can you please make me a set and I will buy them from you. I'm pretty sure a set of 36 Lenormand tiles would, their resin poured over top
Mhm.
were, I want to say it was about 150 or 200 US. They're more now. They're more now.
Mhm.
And everything was done, cut by hand, whatever.
Oh
And
my
then she's
gosh.
also got tarot tiles, right? There are products out there that are made of different materials that are in that same range. I think you've got the price point right, in my opinion, for the stone dice.
Mhm.
I think there's 22 stone. You also have to account for things, and people don't think this, but most creators, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. I'll say a lot of creators try to not charge really the true cost of shipping.
Oh my
Let's be real for a second.
god.
We really try not to charge the true cost of shipping, because if y'all saw what it costs to actually ship, nobody would order anything. It just
It's
wouldn't
so
happen. Okay.
bad.
So most of us do have to think about things like having a little bit of room in there for shipping excess that you can't really
Mhm.
charge because people will freak out. You have to think about things like storage charges for your inventory, like all these different things, all these moving parts that go into a product. And for every
Mhm.
individual item, and people may not realize this, a project like this that has so many moving parts, every individual item you have at your storage or at your fulfillment center, right at their warehouse, each thing has to be separately and individually stored, and sometimes in two
Mhm.
locations, like where they pick from, and then also back storage. I mean, it's a whole thing. Okay. It's like a whole thing.
There's
So
so
the
many
fact,
surprising hidden costs that you find out.
yeah. Yeah, I was really lucky because my son is like basically a math genius. So he came over at the start of my first campaign and sat down, and he literally asked me questions. He's like, what does this cost? What does that cost? And we put it onto this massive spreadsheet so that it would
Mhm.
auto calculate for me my final total cost, not just the right now cost, which is very tempting as a creator to only look at.
Mm.
And then what the final, like what you need your final price to be to have it make sense with your overall all costs in. And that's not paying yourself for your time. That's just figuring out what are all of my costs. And it's hard to do that. You actually have to sit down and really wrap your head around so many different numbers. So, anyways, all that to say, I think your price
There's
points are
a
incredibly
lot
fair.
you miss. The one that I keep
Yeah.
trying to remind people about, because this is the one I think gets dropped the most as a cost, is your freight from your manufacturer to your fulfillment or to you.
Yeah.
People forget that that exists,
Yeah.
because when I'm charging shipping, often I will fold in like pick and pack fees for what it costs to
Hmm.
ship your items. So like anything related
Yeah.
to packing, the packaging material itself, and the shipping, that I can
Yeah.
charge you for your shipping. But
Yeah.
the freight is just in between the manufacturing and that. And a lot of times we
Yeah.
don't think about that. And it's like, oh, that was like $3,000 to get my
It's
product
a
to where it needed to
lot of
go
money.
to then ship. Where does that
Yeah.
$3,000 come from? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Which actually, this is a great segue. So I've talked about this a fair amount because there's a lot of talk right now about tariffs and such like
Oof,
that.
yeah.
Is your fulfillment center in the US?
No, my manufacturer and my are in China.
Okay,
And I
gotcha.
do want to let everyone know, because this is something that I've heard a lot of people saying they'll work around the tariffs by having the manufacturer send it to a fulfillment center. Tariffs are applied to where the items are made, not where they're shipped from.
Hmm.
So even if you have your manufacturer in China and they make your items and then they go to the Philippines and then they go out in the mail,
It's still
unless
going to
they
have the same
lie
exact
about it,
tariff. Yeah.
and then you get
Yep.
caught and you get in a lot of trouble,
Yeah.
you're still getting charged the exact same. So
100%. Yeah.
tariffs are definitely affecting a lot of things right now. I will say that tariffs are really they're volatile. They go up, they
They
go
are
down, they
volatile.
appear, they disappear.
Yeah.
And what we understand, at least from the administration at the moment, is that they're probably going to be walked back a huge amount.
I think they
Um,
are. Yeah. I
so
think
it's
possibly in the next month,
yeah, in the
hopefully.
next month or
So,
two, and definitely before I go to
yeah.
manufacturing, even
Yeah.
the tariffs aren't just they're not going to be what they are now. So I have a
No.
warning on the page, like we don't know what tariffs are yet. We don't know what they'll be
Yeah.
when we actually go to ship. If they're really bad when we do go to ship, we would just wait a few months until it changes.
Yeah.
Um, and also, tariffs are on the manufacturing cost of the items, not the retail cost. So if you're
Yeah.
buying $500 set of stone dice, right? You are not going to be looking at tariffs on those $500. You're looking at it on whatever the manufacturing cost is, which is
Yeah.
a great deal lower. Because
Yeah.
so much of what goes into pricing an item is not actually manufacturing, it's also all the things that layer on top. Like backer
Peggy and
kit
I've
takes
talked about this a
10%.
lot. My wife and I talked about this a lot because in my case, my fulfillment center's in the US. So it does simplify things for me, thankfully.
Mhm.
but because I just do one big shipment into the US from my products made in China, and any tariffs that apply will be applied on our shipping that comes in that we're going to pay in advance, the freight costs, because they send it in delivered duty paid. So we're going to pay whatever tariffs apply at the time to my manufacturer, and then everything's going to show up in the US, and then it's done. It's already taken care of. So nothing is going to matter after that. So just kind of roughly understanding that there is, like you said, it's a volatile situation. Every creator is going to be in a different spot. Creators that bring in product and then ship from the US are in one situation. Creators that ship direct from China or direct from over, and like you said, anybody shipping from outside of the US, no matter where they're shipping from, if their products are manufactured in China, they are still subject to the tariff. And I think that's a very important clarifying point. Like you said, unless they're dishonest about where they say their stuff was manufactured, then it is going to have the same exact situation. Barb asked, this is a good question to ask. Can you please ask Seven if Tarot Alley on Etsy is legit?
Yeah. So New Titan Print is my main manufacturer for a lot of the things that I've made lately. Pretty much anything that's a divination or oracle tool is something that I've made through them. They are my manufacturing partner for the oracle dice as well. They source other manufacturers that make the dice. They source other manufacturers make the wood boxes. They do all of the guidebooks, the cards, the packaging. And just because they're amazing and I adore them, they also are my fulfillment partner, which is really rare. It's hard to actually find a manufacturer who also fulfill for you, which is why I feel like I do get to skip a lot of the stuff I've dealt with other places. Long story short, Tarot Ally is their Etsy store. They have my warehouse of items. They run alleymantarot.com, which is where we sell the Alleyman's Tarot, the Alleyway Oracles, and the previous edition of the dice. And they actually run that Etsy. They, depending on the project, they will print extra of some things on their own dime. And then we have like in a general agreement that because they're handling my warehousing and they're running those stores, they can also sell product of mine that they keep the proceeds from. So I pay for what I want, and then they can overprint if they would like. For the Alleyway Oracles and the Alleyman's Tarot, which were one-time printing, what they printed was counted into that. We had a limited amount that was allowed by contract with all the artists. So
I see.
The Etsy items are on Tarot Ally. That's not my store, but it is theirs, and they are legitimate.
Okay, so for people who want to make sure you are directly supported for the product, because obviously I understand, like, that's great that that's legit, but there are some people who are going to care and they're going to want to know, is the proceeds from this going to you specifically? In those cases, where is the best place to buy from you?
It really depends on the item, and I think that's such a difficult part about how broad of a creator I am. I make games, I make divination tools, I podcast CD sets, poetry. Depending on the item, there's different places to go. For anything that's divination, I would say that alleymantarot.com is a great place to go to get a hold of most of my stuff. It goes directly into New Titan. And depending on what the items are or what you're looking for, it could be different places. But I would say alleymantarot.com is a great place to go. If you want to buy through Etsy, you can, but Etsy always takes a cut. I know that they set the Etsy store up just to have more ways to push things, but I would just go to their website. It's www.alleymantarot.com if you're in the United States. If you're anywhere international, they ship from Hong Kong, and it's hk.alleymantarot.com.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. So that if people order from those sites, they know you're going to be getting proceeds from those sales.
Yeah, it's going into either to me or it's through agreements I have with them. Like with the Alleyman's Tarot, they overprinted a bunch. That's why we ended up doing 40,000 instead of like 30,000, which was my original idea. And so we have decks there that are on their dime, and so they're making the money on that. But that's perfectly good with me. I really appreciate that they warehouse my stuff for free. They are putting up those places to try to move things and sell things. Like I'm actually like super happy if money goes into their
it's a
pockets.
really good working agreement, it sounds like.
I really
good.
Them.
I
do have my own store, which is pubgobshop.com, which you can get to from my website. That stuff I personally ship. And that's usually like my games and poetry and stuff like that. That's the stuff that usually I end up fulfilling, or my enamel pins, things like those.
Oh, okay, understood. Thank you for clarifying, because like my little like protective of creators, like I was like, but okay, so thank you for clarifying. It does sounds like it's a mutually beneficial. It's working out really well for you. You're getting what you need out of that.
It
Perfect.
is.
Okay,
They do
good.
so
Cute.
much work, especially on these really complicated projects like the Oracle dice, where
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to make a wooden box. I want to make a jewelry box. I want to make stone
Yeah.
dice. I want to make resin dice. And they're like, we don't make any of those things, but we can find places that can do that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yay, thanks. They do so much labor on my behalf. They also set up
Yeah.
their own customer support email, originally just for the Alleyman Tarot, and then it's
Wow.
continued and they use it for other projects, but it also is like the main way that people who back my projects that they manufacture and fulfill can reach out directly to the people who know where your item is, what happened to the tracking, things like
Yeah.
that. So
Backer
they've done
support is
so much work
incredible. Yeah.
um, to support my business. So I am super, super happy for people to buy
Excellent.
things through them directly. That's
Okay,
great.
perfect. That's great. So then also, can't underscore this enough. Obviously, the best way to support a creator whose work you appreciate is definitely to get in on these crowdfunding projects, because
Oh my
these, of
gosh.
course, are your bread and butter. This is how you
This is.
fund the work that you do.
Mhm.
So definitely cannot underscore that enough if you really want to support work. If you can and you're comfortable and it fits within your means and your budget and all that kind of stuff and your comfort level, please do support creators on crowdfunding campaigns, especially now. A lot of creators are stressing the heck out. A lot of creators are struggling and worried.
So
If
true.
for no other reason than that there is a lot of buyer nerves right now because of things like tariffs. So if you can
Totally.
support campaigns, please do. Those are the most, I think, direct form of immediate support we get to create
Mhm.
things. So definitely really consider that. And we were looking at the tiers. I do want to get back to that because there's a few we haven't
Sure.
covered yet. So let's go back to here. So
Hang out in our
these
pledge
are dice
levels.
chest pledge levels.
Yeah, so these two here, the Goblin's Divination Collection is the both dice sets
Yeah,
with the chest, and it also includes the standard editions of the Misery Tarot and the Hot Housewives Tarot, which
right.
are both crowdfunding campaigns that funded in the last year or so that
Okay.
have not gone to manufacturing yet. They're going into manufacturing alongside the dice. And so this is kind of their soft release party.
Oh,
So this
understood.
tier
Okay.
is a way to be like, do you want to get in on all three of the new divination tools coming from Publishing Goblin? This is your space to do so. So it's
Gotcha.
$270. It's a bit of a discount to get both dice sets, the chest, and then both sets of the tarot. And then the
Yeah.
next one up is when you're like, I want all of the
Everything.
thing. I want a
Give me
little bit of
everything.
everything you've made, which
Yeah.
weirdly is not everything I've made, but I had to limit it to some degree. It includes
Yeah.
all of the stuff we
Oh my
just talked
god.
about, and my phone I just
Okay.
dropped on the floor.
Oh, uh-oh.
So it's the two dice sets, the chest.
Yeah.
It's the two tarot decks that are coming out now. It also
Yeah.
includes the Alleyman's Tarot. It also includes all three of the decks that were in the Alleyway Oracles, and it includes the normal Tarot's third edition that we just did.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it's a lot of different things, but
Yep.
I know that if I put that tier here, there are always people who are like, "Yeah, I want all the things. This sounds awesome." So
Yeah, give me
it's always worth adding high tiers where you're like, "Here's all the things I've made. Enjoy."
Yep. And then the rest of the stuff would be like more early birds are sold out, and then of course retailer, right? They're sold out. Your early birds, yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
the
And then a
retailer
retailer
is
deposit.
just there for anyone who owns a shop of any kind, whether it's online or in person, and they want to get a bundle set of stuff for closer to the manufacturing cost. I'm always
Yeah.
happy to do retailer. I like knowing that my stuff is in a store somewhere. And there was an
Yeah.
add-ons only please tier as well, which was $1, which is for
Yes.
people who already have the second edition set. You can pledge just $1 to get to the add-ons, which is where
Yeah.
then you could add the updated guidebook and the box and stuff if that's all you want.
Individual things you want to add on. Can you tell us what will be available as add-on only later on? Do you know yet?
The add-ons have their own
Oh,
clicking here too, so we can actually go through
let's
all of
actually go
those
over
as
that.
well.
Yeah. So
Uh,
let's go over to add-ons.
yeah, it's right there next to the pledge
Ah,
levels, so it's
beautiful.
going to be the same kind of look. So for add-ons, you can add on either of the sets. So if you want a second of any of them, you can just throw it on there. The Goblin's
Perfect.
Dice Chest, which is just the chest on its own, that is available for $45. It's a little more
Nice.
expensive on its own as an item. I think I valued it around 40 or 35 or 40 in the combined
Sets.
sets. But if you're
Right.
getting it on its own, it's 45 just because that's how much I will be charging for it when it's done. It's
Yep.
empty. There's nothing in it. You just get the
Yeah.
chest.
The chest. Yeah.
The individual wooden boxes are also available for 40 apiece, which is what we've been selling them at ever since the second edition set finished. So I actually didn't raise the price on it. And when we did put it through the calculator, it was already at a good price. So I'm not going to change that.
Perfect.
We also have some items that aren't available anywhere else. This is the Keykeeper's Die Face Oracle deck. This is a 138 card Oracle deck that has all of the faces of the dice on the cards, so you could read them a little more Oracle or Tarot like. This is the one where I was lovingly asked by Lisa here if I could fix the font so it's more legible, and I agree. Let's do that.
Perfect.
So
Okay,
they're
perfect.
25 a piece. It's a 138 card deck. It comes in a little 2-piece box with a little white book in there.
Nice. Okay. And then there's some foil art prints.
We have foil art prints. Backers who backed in the first 48 hours, which just ended a little bit ago, got them for free. It was kind of the first 48-hour incentive.
Okay.
But they are now here for $20. It is the 7 Keykeepers. They're 5x7 prints. They're all those like big block colors you see, like on that first one, that pink. That's the foil part. It'll also have foil text on the sides. So they're going to be like pretty, very gorgeous and shiny and stuff you could put on your walls. Ooh. I'm really excited about them.
Yay! And you've got reading journals. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
because I got a chance to look at the Goblins Oracle Dice reading journal. Y'all will see that in my recent deck roundup, and members got to see it early. So there's one for each?
Yep, there's one for each. The reason that they're different is because something that you may have seen when you were looking at the one that you've got, Lisa, is that there's a grid laid out in it so that you can mark where your dice were on the actual grid. But there was only one side of the grid. I did not do a separate reading journal at that time during the second edition for the back side of the grid. This updated one, the way it's going to work is that the front half is going to be one grid. The second half is going to be the other grid.
Nice.
So they're going to come with both grids in there. There's going to be a little divider in the middle of the book so that you can just flip right to the start of either section. And it just has an easier way for you to write down what your reading was without having to like take a picture of what your reading was and save it somewhere and make a Google Doc or something. The idea is that there's just a way for you to journal out what was the reading, where did dice go, what was in the core, what was the message I took. And that's just hopefully a way for people to catalog the readings, but also to help maybe learn and work through the dice.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. And then you have the individual stone sets and the goblin
stone sets are here again so that people still have the capacity to buy those as add-ons. This is where we get to the updates.
Okay.
So I said in the pledge levels, there was a $1 pledge level to get just to the add-ons. Mm-hmm. People would do that if they only need certain things. So the top part of this section here is the Keykeeper stuff. So because a number of the dice in the Keykeeper set are coming out in other things as well, if people are buying the deluxe edition of the Misery Tarot, for example, they don't need the Black Lantern dice. Those were in that. So they can choose to buy the Keykeeper's base set and just the other dice they're missing.
Gotcha.
Because I had a lot of people like, what if I'm already getting this and it already has dice and you're saying it's in this thing? How do I avoid duplicates? So I set up a system. There is a part on the campaign page that explains what you buy if you already have certain things.
So these just let you basically build out the things that you might be missing but want to add. Like if you just want the Black Lantern or the Housewives, the Game Takers, or just the Seasons Guidebook, which will come with, we want to highlight this. This will come with the cards.
Yeah, it comes with cards.
Season.
It's great.
If you want the cards.
So if you only want to update your season set to this third edition, you would pay the $1 for the pledge tier that's like, get me into the add-ons. And then, right here, you would add just the new guidebook with the cards. You could also spend $5 to get the empty box if you want to store it in that. Yeah. But a lot of people already figured out ways that they want to store their stuff. So that's why I kept that one separate in case people want to.
And then you can also add just the Hot Housewives Tarot or the Deluxe, which comes with these dice.
It comes with the dice. It comes with a tarot cloth, a tin, a weird magnet divination set. There's a whole thing going on in there.
I might have to peek at that. And then we have the Misery Tarot and the Misery Tarot Deluxe. And then, of course, you still have Alleyman Tarot, Alleyway Tarot, which was the follow-up.
We have the Oracle
And
Play and the
then
Oracle Secrets, which are part of the Alleyway Oracles campaign. We have all
nice.
4 versions of the normal tarot as well.
Wow.
So the 3rd edition was by a new artist in full color. The 2nd edition had 2 versions, gold and silver foil, that were also done by different artists. So they're
Oh
also
wow.
totally different. And then the 1st edition is the original way we did it, where it was a black and white deck. It's the
Wow.
same art as the silver version, but the silver version darkened all the cards and added silver foil. So there's a
I
lot going on with those.
Yeah. So basically, $1 pledge gets you in to sort of shop this section and mix and match what you want or need, especially if you're not looking for complete sets. It sounds to me like complete sets, your best bet is going to be to go for one of the pledge levels,
Yeah, because you
and
can
then
also
add on
get
from there.
combined things that lower the price of the individual items.
Gotcha. Oh my gosh.
I made everything possible available.
That is so much customization. It would have broken my brain. Y'all will never see this, just so you know, on a campaign of mine, ever, ever, ever. It will break me. I will be crying in a corner in the fetal position. It will never, ever happen. I just having like stickers or something stressed me out. So like it's a minimum. You'll notice that I keep my stuff very stripped back because I don't have it in me. I just don't have it in me to manage all those moving parts. So many props to you because you've really clearly got a system down, and giving people that many choices is a great way to allow people to back and support your projects at a level that works for them, like financially and also like what they need and want. So I think you did a really great job with that. I'm really excited to see all this stuff be out in the world, and especially the key keepers, and to kind of see how people are working with those. So throughout the rest of your campaign, you are showing up for doing live readings, which I got watched one back, and I got to join in on one, which was super fun. You're doing that multiple times a week, I think you said?
I am. So Mondays and Fridays, I'm streaming both Monday and Friday, and I'm doing a morning and an evening stream both those days. So 10 to noon Mountain Time and 4 to 6 Mountain Time is when I'm currently doing them. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about adding in a couple oddball ones that are at really weird hours for me, so I can capture some people who are in other parts of the world who can't
Yeah.
attend maybe. So that's generally what I'm doing. I'm also doing a Reddit AMA. I'm doing another interview. I'm doing a bunch of things. There's also a trivia challenge on the campaign. There's just a lot of little moving parts. And something
Yeah.
that I do on my campaigns that I started originally on the Oracle dice, I think, is Wandering Tears. So starting Monday, I'm going to start including clues and riddles in my updates that if you crack, you will find out what day and time something will be arriving for really cheap. And for a short window, either an add-on or a pledge tier will appear that will only have a few slots that will allow you to get things for even cheaper. I've done
Whoa.
this a number of times before. It's very
How
fun,
fun is
but it
that?
means that like little temporary things will appear that people can try to grab, and it's purely for fun. So if
Yeah.
you think that trying to figure out the clue or working together with other backers to figure out the clues so that you can be ready for it is fun for you, then do it. I've had it in the past,
Gamify.
some people get mad at me for doing it because they're like, I don't want to play a game to get a discount. I was like, well, then you don't have to play
Then
the
don't play
game.
the game.
But
That's pretty simple.
it's purely for fun. I hope
It's
that,
like a lottery. It's like anything else where
yeah,
people do giveaways.
exactly.
You win back your pledge, or you can win a discount or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's just a different way of gamifying it.
So I'm going to focus on particular things for different days. It means that
Yeah.
for people who really are, super dedicated reading all the updates and who want to take part in every little bit, they get something fun to do day to day.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of my goal. So I've done them in the past on a number of projects. They're always super fun. And
Yeah.
that is something I'll be doing during the life of the project. And then anyone who's backed my other things lately would know that the end of live stream is always huge.
So like
Because
the wrap up, the
Backer
party.
Kit changed a lot about what an end of campaign looks like. Whenever someone backs in your last moments, it starts a 10-minute timer or resets the 10-minute timer. And as long as you have this going and people keep backing in a row, the project keeps going past when it was supposed to end.
Oh my
I
God.
stay on those live streams until people stop and it actually ends. And during those, I already have 3 planned things I'm going to reveal as special extras that you can try to pledge for. But during those, I always throw out additional things that people hop to, and They can get even cheaper discounts, or they can get items that haven't been offered on the campaign yet. And then when we go to the pledge manager, everyone else gets the chance to add those items as well if they're sticking around. But yeah, so I've got lots of plans for the end of live stream. I've got streams all throughout. When do I sleep?
God.
I sleep all the time and really well. Actually,
Perfect.
I have a really
great.
good timeline where I'm allowed to work and times I'm not allowed to work. So got a
Unless
good work-life
keep backing
balance.
your campaign, and then you're just gonna have to sleep when you can sleep.
Those days, you know, they last as long as people make me do it. I think the Misery Tarot, I was on for at least like a good 4 hours after it was supposed to end.
Wow,
And just
that's so
hanging out
fun.
and making things up. People actually started suggesting a commemorative mug because there was an ongoing joke where I was threatening my artist with violence if he didn't work more. And so they were like, can we get a commemorative Enoch didn't survive or Enoch did survive mug? And so I made one on the spot. I added an add-on. I was like, I don't know what it'll be yet, but it's $15. Here you go. And so we designed the mug. Enoch and I designed it as whether or not I loosed a creature on Enoch for not finishing the deck in time.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
The loopier I get loopier the longer the stream goes on. So people start asking for things, and I'm like, sure, you can have whatever you want.
Make it. Let's just make this thing. That is amazing. So much props to you for that. So backer kit, you just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've never. Maybe I've never. I can't remember ever backing a project on BackerKit. So I would love to hear actually a little bit about the difference between maybe Kickstarter, which most of us I think are more familiar with. BackerKit we're familiar with, I think, as a pledge manager, but BackerKit as a funding platform. What should people know, or what's different for you as a creator, either way or both?
So there's a few things going on for me, and there's definitely a main reason that I don't launch on Kickstarter anymore, and it's AI. And I don't generally care what anyone's stance is on a lot of things for a lot of reasons, but AI is one where we know objectively it just steals from artists. It's a plagiarism engine. That's what it is. We know that's how it works.
Yeah.
There's no space to have a ton of opinions on it other than we know it steals. And BackerKit has a no AI stance. You cannot run a project on here that uses AI. And that's a kind of no-brainer for me on where I would like to be. Because right now, at any given moment, if you go on Kickstarter and you search tarot,
it's like a lot of AI.
Several of the decks are just AI art.
It is frustrating to shop there because you're like you're reading through like, okay, but where's the actual? Like, where's the actual?
Where do you tell me who the artist is?
It is taking over a bit. Yeah.
Where do you tell me who made this so that I can support an artist?
Yeah.
So that's just a really important
you just know out the gate
for me.
You're shopping there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But as far as platforms go, BackerKit started doing crowdfunding right around the time that Kickstarter was talking about some changes that were similar to AI stuff, which is a whole nother topic. We're not going to get into it. But BackerKit was like, we're seeing a lot of creators who would like a space where they have a little more say in what's happening on the platform. So they reached out to me and a bunch of other people who were maybe kind of big in whatever niche they're doing. And they were like, hey, would you be interested in launching a project with us for this reason on our platform, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And they set it up. So now what we have is we have a platform that's very similar to Kickstarter in so many ways. There are a few interesting differences. They have a little more direct integration with their own pledge manager, which is cool. They also have things that they're trying out. And that's the thing that's really cool is they're trying out things all the time. Like this trivia thing, it's a whole tab on my campaign page. It's its own special feature. And they're willing to listen to us in our Discord where all the creators are, and we're talking directly to them. We're like, we would really like this feature. And they'll actually make efforts to get that put in a month or two. Whereas with Kickstarter, which Kickstarter's great for so many things, and I'm not demeaning them for this, they're a really huge platform.
They're huge.
It's hard for them to hear creators because there's just so many people and everyone wants different stuff. And when they do talk about adding something new, it will be years before you ever see it.
Roadmap. Yeah, it's going to be years for sure. Yeah.
I would say that BackerKit is pretty great at being there for the creators in a very direct way.
Oh, that's awesome.
I will say also, though, that the kind of trade-off you have going there is that Kickstarter is a place that people go to buy things. Yeah. Someone on their average day will type kickstarter.com and go look at what new things are there.
They'll go browse.
Because BackerKit's so new, it's only been a couple years they've started doing this crowdfunding thing. I don't think that people do that as much. And so
No.
you will probably get less foot traffic organically on their platform. That's the
Yes.
trade-off.
That is,
But
yeah.
for me, as kind of an ethical, moral thing, this is where I've chosen to kind of set up camp for now.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Life always changes. You never know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. I will say that you do need an account on the website. Since a lot of people back Kickstarters, they already have an account. For a lot of people who are coming to
I
do
noticed
BackerKit,
that.
they're like, oh, I need an account. I don't have one. I don't know if I want to do that.
I
So
had one. I had the
that can
same
be a
exact
hurdle.
thought. Yeah, like I went and I was like, "Oh, I already have an account. I have a BackerKit account because I've backed so many projects that just
Oh,
as a
for
backer."
sure.
So I was able to just sign in and start following your campaign immediately. It was
Yes.
just no fuss, no muss. Yeah.
Which we love. And because people have used BackerKit as a pledge manager for the back end of campaigns for so long,
Yeah.
I would definitely like throw that out there and be like, a lot of you have accounts, you just don't realize it.
Yeah. Actually, Barb, I do absolutely cover BackerKit funded projects in hot takes. It's all based on request. So I have this series 7 where I cover
Yeah.
like me and my friend get together and we talk about all the new releases and stuff that people have requested we talk about. So if people request BackerKit based projects, they get covered if we have the time and it can fit into our slots. But yes, absolutely, Barb. That's a great point.
It's
And
definitely can be harder for sure. Yes,
yeah.
yes, it's at this. Thank you, Artemisian. There are payment installments, and I do have it enabled on the campaign. So
Yeah.
anyone who's in a position where they're like, I want to get both sets, but like that's, I want to get both in the chest, and that's like $170, and that's quite a lot for me to do right now. You can anything over 150 for your pledge. So if you add a bunch of add-ons, you can set up pay over time, and it's basically, I believe, 4 monthly installments that you pay your pledge out. So if anyone's feeling like you would love to back this, you really want to support, but it's just not the time for you to spend that much money, you can break it down into, I'm pretty sure it's 4 equal payments over 4 months, which makes so many crowdfunding projects so much more affordable. And there's so many little things like that that are just features that I feel would really benefit Kickstarter, but we have them on BackerKit, so use them.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Also, the Topias. My gosh, I'm sorry, I haven't plugged it. I'm launching as part of Terratopia. Topias are a group project kind of deal that BackerKit has been doing a bunch of different versions of. We had Pintopia, Booktopia. We're doing Terratopia right now. There are 13 of us who are launching tarot or oracle-like projects all at the same time. And if you back both me and my partner project, Cage Davies, the Midnight Ocean Tarot, which is a major arcana. If you go to the main page, and then
here we go. Cross
collab.
Right
there. Ooh, yeah. And you can click on Cage's project. It's really gorgeous. It's a major arcana only deck. It's really lovely about deep ocean animals. And there's also a pin for each one of those major arcana. So if you're into enamel pins, you can just get those. If you want the deck, you can get that. And if you back both of us, you get a free pin from each of us. I designed this goblin pin with some of the dice overhead. And Cage designed this really cute, tiny little sea creature that ate a dice.
That's amazing. So it's got a D20 in its gullet,
which I think is just so cute. But Cage's art is super lovely. The pins look amazing. I mean, look at that pin. Can you imagine that crab just reaching out over the card frame? I'm excited.
That's wild. Yeah, I love this like whale like one.
They're
very
cool.
So if you back this campaign and your campaign, then there's the exclusive pin that you get, which is amazing. You both exclusive pins.
Yep, you get a free pin from each of us.
That's so cool. So the
cool
Terratopias are collabs. Yeah.
We have collab partners, and then if you back 4 different projects, you also get a free tarot cloth from BackerKit.
Oh.
So they also have like some skin in the game with the Topias, where they're like, if you back a bunch of these different things at the same time, like you'll also get free pins from us, or you'll get free whatever fun item from us. So it's really cool. It's a fun way to spotlight people. They're definitely like feeling out how it works and what it's best for. I will say that the Topias like are really good for some, they're less good for others, but generally what we're seeing is it does help share audience. So during Pintopia, we had like 120 projects, I think.
Wow.
There was a lot of people happening, but people who don't do very many projects or who have a very small audience got to have a bunch of new people come in and look at their project and back them. So I think that it is really, really great for small creators who are doing small projects. I think that it's maybe a little less focused on big creators who are doing really big projects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
if you
more a
have
way
a
to
really
sort of
big thing,
share.
do your
Yeah.
own
Pay it
project
forward.
later.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
topias are so cool. I think it's a really neat concept behind trying to build a collaborative working space.
Oh, I totally get what you mean. Artie says that green and gold reminds me of Anna from Frozen. No, I totally understand. I can follow that logic for
Yeah. No, that
sure.
makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much, Seven, for hanging out. We have covered so much
Absolutely.
ground, but I'm so excited to see the dice out. I'm definitely gonna have to check out. I want to get the upgraded book, I think, and kind of get those little cards because I think that's gonna be handy. But I have been playing with this new edition since you sent them to me, and I think they're really fun. It's nice to be able to anybody that does casting, by the way, these are great to also just like toss in a little pouch or bag or whatever, or just
Oh
even just
yeah.
run your hand over them and just like random select, like you said, just grab a little handful and cast
Mhm.
just a small selection and then play with those readings and see what you get. I've been pairing them with my D&D dice like system that Dawn and I created as kind of like a way to have a perpetual, like we like to do this thing where we pair tarot and oracle decks. And so I've kind of been, I'll talk about this more in the roundup, but I've kind of been playing around a little bit with, since I filmed that especially, taking my base D&D dice system, which gives me a very comprehensive reading, and then I can pull an oracle dice 2 or 3 as like an oracle pairing with my, so it's almost like I'm treating the D&D like they're like tarot, and it's just been really cool. So now I feel like I can perpetually always grab like a clarifier dice from this system or 2 or 3 and like marry the two systems. It has been so fun. So if you are already playing around with the dice casting system that Dawn and I created, this is such a fun integrative thing that you can kind of pull in and like mix and match with. So fun. Love the chaos die as well. Perfect. But yeah, it's been so much fun just to play and explore. And I love tactile. I think a lot of us in this community love tactile things we can like roll, shuffle, like get our hands on. And this is so satisfying from a tactile experience. You could also mix these in with a charm casting set. I'm just saying, like,
Exactly.
can you imagine like throwing charms and dice
if
and
you have
like whatever?
charms, bones, runes, tiles, any of
Yeah,
that stuff you do, I also do tarot readings and roll the dice over them, and then I use the
that's what I
tarot
do.
reading itself as the reading grid. So I'm like, this
Yeah,
die relates to this tarot card, and
energy.
this is explaining this. Like, there's so much you can do when you start
Yeah.
mixing and matching.
Yes. Absolutely. And yes, you do have a YouTube channel. Thank you, Jonathan. This is a great point. So I have Seven's socials down below. So YouTube, Instagram, as well as, of course, a link to the campaign that you can check out if you want to look at it yourself and kind of peruse the various options. But yeah, you've been doing your live streams on YouTube, and then they also show up on BackerKit, right?
Yes, that's another really
Yeah.
cool thing that BackerKit does. We mirror our streams from either Twitch or YouTube or Moonbeam, which is another streaming platform, I guess, that exists.
Yeah.
And it mirrors onto our campaign page, replacing the campaign video or main image. So it's right there on the page, and you can open the chat there. So a lot of people, I just
Cool.
direct them to the campaign page, and it's on YouTube as well. I'm like, just go to the page where you're also
Yeah, because then you can
pledged.
see everything. Yeah, also true. Good point. Yeah, so keep an eye on that. And you've got your whole interview and live reading schedule. So if you want to see the dice in actions, highly recommend tuning into one of Seven's reading streams. It was really fun to watch you just read with the dice. I got a reading from the dice. It was amazing. Super cool to see them just being worked with, because I think you look at this many dice and it can seem a little intimidating at first. And I think seeing them in action has been so helpful. Oh, we did have a question. I'm sorry, Stardust. Stardust asked, for anyone who knows, if I want to buy just dice and I want the most recent set, is it just Key Keepers or that plus seasons?
Yeah, so if you want dice, you don't want any of the extra options. The sets come with the dice, the guidebook, and the cloth packed together in a box. You would just get both the Key Keepers and the seasons dice. There's no option that gets just the two of them without like the chest or some other boxes, which I am now recognizing. Maybe I'll go add that as a pledge tier. But yeah, if you just want those, I would pledge for one of them, and then in the add-ons, just add the other one. That would be the way you'd get just the two dice sets without anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, and then if you only want to hone in on one, you could pick one and just work with that too. So you've got options. I love that idea. And yeah, if you could, that's probably a good idea to have the two boxed sets as a duo that people can also back.
Yeah, I think I just keep thinking about a lot of people coming here from the season set and already having it and not needing it. So I keep being like, okay, seasons will be available for people who need it, but then most of you will probably come here for the key keepers just to get the new dice, but
Yeah.
I'll just go add that. I love adding more
Thanks,
pledge
Evan.
levels.
I like how flexible you are throughout your campaign. I would never. I need to know exactly what's going to be in there before I hit go. I need to know all my potential stretch goals. I need to have already costed all that stuff out, or my brain will break. So I think it's very fun how flexible and playful you are with your tiers and your add-ons and stuff. Like you made an add-on in the end of your campaign and just like, oh sure, I'll make a mug. Never would I ever.
Why not? You know, I'm that's the thing, and that's the thing that got me so much in trouble in the Alliance. I'm such a yes man. Someone's like, oh, can you offer this? I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? A new thing just for you. And then like one person gets it, and I'm like, oh, I literally made that for one person. But that's okay. You know, I added that mug, and I think there's 35 people who got the mug. So I'm like, that's fine. We'll roll with it.
That's all right. Okay. Thank you again so much for all of your time. Good luck with the campaign. Keep us posted.
Thank you for having me and the lovely questions and conversation. It was great just spending time with you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And just a reminder, if you're watching this in membership right now, this is going to be available to the public in a few days. I think next Saturday it's going out to the public. So if you're watching this in member space, it will be available for We Play later. If you are watching this now in public, leave us a comment down below if you have additional questions for Seven that we didn't cover here today. Drop that in the comments and I will poke Seven and be like, hey, if I don't know the answer or whatnot, we'll make sure we get that.
I will answer any question at all time. Half of my reading streams have just been like a Q&A, and you can do that. That's allowed.
That's perfect. Yeah. And definitely check out the campaign and keep an eye out for the live streams and such happening throughout. Thank you again so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right, y'all. We are headed out, but have a good rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Adios.